Ladies, there comes a time in your life when you stop walking in circles and start walking in purpose. You stop entertaining conversations that drain you, people that confuse you, and situations that no longer align with who you're becoming. Because a smart woman knows she's not just living, she's becoming. She's unfolding. She's shedding the old skin of who she had to be just to survive. And now she's walking like a woman who knows she is called. Let me tell you something about a smart woman. She doesn't chase what isn't chasing her. She stands still, firm, rooted. She understands that what's meant for her will recognize her value, not question it. She doesn't beg for seats at tables God never told her to sit at. She builds her own table, and sometimes she eats alone until she meets people who bring peace, not pressure. Rule number 1, she does not chase, she attracts. And what does she attract? Respect. Love, alignment, not because she's lucky, but because she's intentional. Rule number 2, she doesn't lower her standards to be chosen because she knows that every time she lowers her standards, she's shrinking a woman who was born to stand tall. So she raises the bar. She stops fitting in. She starts standing out. Rule number 3, she protects her peace like her life depends on it, because it does. The version of her that used to explain herself in paragraphs now only smiles and says, God knows my heart. She doesn't perform for people anymore. She preserves herself. Rule number 4, she doesn't argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding her. You don't waste your voice where it won't be heard. Your energy is too divine, too holy, too sacred to keep casting pearls before swine. Rule number 5, she becomes love. She doesn't wait for someone to tell her she's worthy. She walks like she already knows. She doesn't beg to be loved, she is love. And that love flows from a deep place, from pain that was healed, from betrayal that became a lesson, from silence that turned into strength. Rule number 6, she trusts God's no. You know what makes a woman wise? She stops crying over closed doors and starts praising for divine protection. A smart woman knows just because it hurts doesn't mean it's harmful. God breaks what doesn't belong before he blesses what does. And finally, rule number 7, she never forgets who she is, even when life tries to convince her otherwise. Even when the heartbreaks, disappointments, and rejections try to strip her identity, she remembers. She's not who they said she was. She's who God says she is. So to every smart woman listening right now, you don't need more approval. You don't need more attention. You don't even need more time. You need to believe that the woman in you is ready to rise. These 7 rules, they're not just rules, they're reminders that you're chosen, that you're powerful, and that the smartest thing you'll ever do is finally stop doubting yourself. A smart woman has learned, sometimes through heartbreak, sometimes through silence, and sometimes through long nights of asking, why me? That chasing anything that isn't aligned with her value only leads to exhaustion, not elevation. She doesn't run after people hoping they'll finally see her worth. She doesn't plead for attention or compromise her dignity just to be seen, heard, or loved. That season of proving herself, it's over. She's not running anymore. She's rising. She's done with chasing calls that never come, texts that never arrive, and affection that only shows up when it's convenient for someone else. She's not auditioning for love. She's not applying to be chosen, because a smart woman understands real love doesn't need convincing. Real respect doesn't require performance. When she walks into a room, she doesn't demand attention, she commands it. Not by being loud, but by being grounded, by knowing who she is, by knowing what she brings. Her energy speaks before she does. It's her peace, her maturity, her wholeness. And it draws in everything that is meant for her. She's magnetic. And not because she's perfect, but because she's aligned. She has boundaries. She has standards. She has wisdom. She's done chasing people who treat her like she's optional. She sits in her strength. She lives in her truth. And she knows when you're in the right posture, you don't chase blessings, you attract them. A smart woman knows that when she heals, she attracts people who are whole. When she grows, she attracts people who are also evolving. When she stops trying to be everything to everyone, she starts attracting people who can handle who she really is. She's no longer interested in begging for loyalty, attention, or consistency, because the woman she's becoming knows what she deserves. And that kind of woman, she walks in rooms with her head high and her spirit calm, because she knows what belongs to her will never require her to lose herself. Let others chase attention, drama, and temporary validation. She's attracting peace, purpose, and permanent love. Because at this stage in her life, she understands the difference between being pursued and being distracted. She's not just living, she's building. She's not just hoping, she's preparing. And most of all, she's not chasing anything that isn't chasing God with the same passion she is. She never lowers her standards to fit into broken systems or people. A smart woman has come to understand through pain, through disappointments, and through lessons that almost broke her, that lowering her standards doesn't lead to love, peace, or acceptance. It only leads to pieces of herself being scattered in places she never belonged. She has done it before, let's be honest. Most strong women have. She shrunk herself in rooms that couldn't handle her light. She softened her truth to avoid confrontation. She's played small to keep people comfortable. She's bent over backward to keep broken systems intact and broken people content. But not anymore. Because now she knows when you lower your standards just to be accepted, you're not being loved, you're being tolerated. And a smart woman is no longer willing to be tolerated just to stay included. She no longer begs to be chosen by people who lack the capacity to handle her. She no longer molds herself to fit into relationships, workplaces, or circles that ask her to lose her values in exchange for connection. That's not love, that's sacrifice. And not the holy kind, the kind that chips away at your worth little by little, day by day. She refuses to apologize for expecting effort, for expecting honesty, for expecting consistency. These are not high standards. These are basic foundations of emotional maturity. And if someone sees them as too much, she gracefully lets them go because she knows that compromising her standards never created happiness, only heartache. She also knows this: broken people will always ask you to break yourself to match them. Insecure systems will always feel threatened by a woman who knows her value. And damaged environments will try to clip the wings of anyone who dares to fly. But a smart woman, she doesn't clip her wings anymore. She spreads them. She soars. She understands that her standards are not walls, they are filters. They don't keep love out, they keep dysfunction out. And if someone can't rise to meet her where she's standing, she doesn't lower herself. She prays for them from a distance and keeps walking. Because a woman with standards is a woman who values her time, her energy, and her purpose. She knows she can't fulfill her calling while constantly fixing what's not hers to fix. She's not a repair project manager. She's not a rehab center for broken potential. She's a builder of legacy, a carrier of wisdom, and a protector of peace. So she doesn't lower her standards. She lifts her vision. She guards her space, and she honors her worth. Because when she realized her value, she stopped trying to fit in and started being the one who sets the tone. She protects her peace like it's sacred, because it is. There was a time when her peace was negotiable. A time when she said yes just to keep others happy. When she tolerated chaos in the name of loyalty and stayed silent in rooms where her spirit was screaming, but not anymore. Now she knows her peace is sacred. It's not a luxury, it's her lifeline. She protects it like a mother protects her child, like a warrior guards the gates to her kingdom. Because a smart woman understands that everything she is, her clarity, her joy, her purpose, her creativity, flows from her peace. She's no longer afraid to say, this energy isn't for me. She no longer explains when she steps back. She doesn't over-apologize for needing space. She doesn't feel guilty for needing rest. She doesn't second-guess herself when she walks away from noise, drama, or people who only bring storms. Because peace isn't the absence of noise, it's the presence of alignment. It's what happens when your soul is no longer in conflict with your surroundings, and that's priceless. A smart woman guards her peace because she knows how hard it was to get here. She remembers the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the tears she cried in silence, the battles she fought that no one knew about. She knows what it feels like to live in survival mode. So now she's choosing to live in sacred stillness. She doesn't let just anyone have access to her. She's not available for gossip, negativity, or emotional chaos. She doesn't respond to every insult, entertain every invitation, or return to people she had to heal from. That's not bitterness, that's boundaries. And boundaries, they're the gatekeepers of peace. Some people think she's distant now. Some say she's changed, and they're right. She has changed. She stopped dancing for approval. She stopped being the emotional caregiver to people who never showed up for her. She stopped explaining herself just to be understood by people who never listened anyway. And in that silence, she found something beautiful. She found peace. And once you taste peace after living in storms, you don't go back. She protects her peace by choosing solitude over superficial company. She protects her peace by praying before reacting. She protects her peace by walking away instead of arguing. She no longer feels the need to prove herself to people who don't see her. She no longer gives energy to what drains her, because her energy, her heart, her soul, it's not up for cheap access. She protects her peace because peace is the birthplace of power. And any woman who protects her peace becomes a woman who moves with clarity, speaks with wisdom, and lives with purpose. Yes, she protects her peace like it's sacred, because it is. She doesn't explain herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. A smart woman has learned one of life's hardest but most freeing lessons. You cannot make someone understand you who has already decided they won't. There was a time she tried. She'd write long messages, over-explain her intentions, clarify her heart, justify her silence, defend her choices, just hoping someone would finally get her, hoping that maybe if she just said it the right way or softened her truth enough, they would stop twisting her words or questioning her motives. But no matter how much she gave, no matter how honest she was, some people chose to misunderstand her. Why? Because their mind was already made up, their opinion was already formed, and their ego wasn't interested in truth, it was invested in control. Now, she doesn't explain herself anymore. She doesn't argue with distorted perceptions or try to clear up narratives that were never meant to honor her in the first place. Because she finally understands. When someone is committed to misunderstanding you, truth doesn't matter, control does. She doesn't waste breath in rooms where her heart isn't safe. She doesn't negotiate with those who manipulate. She doesn't debate with people who only listen to respond, not to understand. Instead, she preserves her energy. She stays grounded in her truth. She lets silence be her answer. Because explanation is sacred, vulnerability is sacred. And she's no longer offering that kind of intimacy to those who weaponize it. She's not cold, she's not distant, she's wise. And wisdom says, stop opening your soul to those who use it against you. If someone wants to know her, they will ask. If they care, they will listen. If they're mature, they'll hold space for her truth, even when it's not easy. But if all they want is to argue, judge, twist, and invalidate, she will not play that game because she's too grown to keep trying to explain herself to people who aren't even listening with love. A smart woman walks in integrity. She knows who she is. She knows what she meant. She knows the spirit in which she moves. And that's enough. She sleeps at night not because the world understands her, but because she understands herself. That's real peace. That's emotional freedom. No, she doesn't explain herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. She protects her truth, walks in grace, and lets her life speak louder than their assumptions ever could. She doesn't beg for love, she becomes love. There was a time she thought love meant proving herself, that if she just gave more, sacrificed more, showed up more, someone would finally stay, finally see her, finally choose her. So she gave pieces of herself in places that never deserved her presence. She begged with silence. She pleaded with patience. She tried to earn what should have been given freely. But one day she woke up, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a soul-shifting, heart-healing way. She realized something sacred. Love is not something to beg for. Love is something you become. Because begging comes from lack, but love, true love, comes from fullness. She no longer waits by the phone. She no longer overextends herself just to keep someone who's half invested. She no longer sacrifices her peace in hopes of receiving crumbs of affection. Why? Because a smart woman knows her worth, and she knows that real love doesn't have to be chased. It recognizes her, respects her, rises to meet her. So she stopped begging. She stopped overgiving. She stopped trying to fix people who didn't want to grow. Instead, she became love. She became the kind of love that starts with self, the kind that's patient with her own journey, that honors her boundaries, that speaks truth with gentleness, that forgives but does not tolerate disrespect, that listens to her soul before listening to pressure. She became the kind of love that doesn't settle for half-hearted effort, the kind that's not afraid to be alone rather than poorly accompanied, the kind that pours into others from a place of overflow, not desperation. Her presence now feels like home because she's rooted in love, not the romantic kind first, but the sacred kind, the divine kind, the kind that holds space for herself when no one else does. She became the kind of love that doesn't need to be seen to feel seen because she sees herself. She heals herself. She holds herself. And when she walks into a room, love walks in with her. Peace follows her. Grace covers her because she's not just looking for love anymore. She is it. And that kind of woman, she doesn't beg for love. She teaches people how to love her by how she loves herself. She's the kind of woman who makes you realize love isn't about finding someone to complete you. It's about becoming whole and then sharing that wholeness with someone who recognizes it, honors it, and mirrors it. So no, she doesn't beg for love, she becomes it. She lives it, she radiates it. And the right people, they won't run from that, they'll rise for it. She trusts God's no just as much as she celebrates his yes. She used to think that unanswered prayers were punishments. That closed doors meant rejection. That silence from heaven meant she wasn't enough, hadn't prayed hard enough, hadn't believed deeply enough. But over time, through tears, through heartbreaks, through lonely nights and divine delays, she grew, she matured, she transformed. And now she understands something she didn't before. God's no is not rejection, it's redirection. It's protection. It's preparation. So she no longer pouts in the face of a no. She no longer spirals when the relationship ends, when the opportunity disappears, when the plan crumbles. Because she's lived enough life to know that some of the most painful no's were actually the greatest blessings in disguise. There were jobs she begged for that would have broken her spirit. People she wanted forever with who weren't capable of loving her in the way she needed. Paths she tried to force open that would have led her far from her purpose. But God said no, and at the time, it didn't make sense. It felt unfair. It felt like punishment. But now she looks back with eyes full of wisdom and a heart full of gratitude, because God's no is never empty. It's always pregnant with purpose. She's learned that his no is just as holy as his yes, that a denied prayer might just be an answered one in disguise, that divine delays are sometimes divine disguises for greater things. She no longer needs immediate answers to feel secure. She no longer needs constant affirmation to feel chosen. She no longer interprets resistance as failure. She sees it as redirection, because a smart woman knows God sees the full picture. She only sees the piece in front of her, but he sees what's years away. He sees what's hiding behind closed doors, what's waiting in the shadows, what's stirring in the unseen. So she leans into the no with just as much trust as she dances in the yes. She doesn't resist what's not for her, she releases it. She's no longer desperate to control every outcome. She surrenders, she trusts, she lets go, not because it's easy, but because she knows who's writing her story, and she knows his pen never slips. So if you want to know what makes a woman truly smart, it's not just her knowledge, her degrees, or her eloquence. It's her discernment, her boundaries, her healing, her softness, and her strength. It's the way she refuses to chase what depletes her, the way she guards her peace like treasure, the way she chooses silence over chaos and alignment over attention. She knows who she is, she knows what she carries, and she refuses to shrink, beg, explain, or break herself just to be accepted by systems and souls not built to handle her depth. She no longer lives for validation, she lives for purpose. She no longer fears solitude, she embraces it as sacred space. She no longer questions if she's enough, she knows she is. A smart woman is not just strong, she's wise. Not just kind, she's powerful. Not just loving, she is love. She doesn't just survive, she evolves. She does not dream, she builds. She does not pray, she listens. And whether it's a yes or a no, she trusts the author of her story more than the chapter she's in. So here's the truth. Smart women don't move loud. They move deep. They don't force doors. They walk in divine timing. They don't chase love, they become it. And in becoming, they rise. Every time.